Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the new album from Iggy Azalea, her debut album titled The New Classic. So you know what really kind of pisses me off in radio in the modern era? In that sort of reveals a certain type of systemic sexism that has somehow only gotten worse in the music industry. It's whenever you have a new, up-and-coming female rapper who has a reputation for being able to really spit and deliver some potent lyrics, they try to give her a pop or an R&B edge that at least one song will cross over to mainstream radio because of that pop edge, and only because of that pop edge. And as their careers progress, you quickly realize that mainstream radio is going to only stick with those pop-friendly songs instead of letting her actually step up to the microphone with hard-hitting rap, unlike, say, some of her male counterparts. I mean, outside of Drake, how often have major labels gone up to rappers and said, yeah, you need to be able to sing an R&B ballad or a pop tune or you're not going to be able to get any radio play. Male acts, they might be asked to dumb down their content. Female rappers, they're asked to change their entire identity. What, you want more evidence of this? Look at Nicki Minaj. Look at Krayshawn. Hell, look at the last album from Angel Hayes. Hell, even though Colette Carr had more outright pop appeal, her singles weren't exactly the songs where she was outstripping her male counterparts in her rapping, which she can easily do. And thus, when I saw early buzz suggesting that Australian rapper Iggy Azalea was going to be singing for the very first time on her debut album, The New Classic, I just shook my head. Oh, of course she was going to be singing. Even though she was featured on XXL's list of the top rap freshmen in 2012 with Danny Brown, Hobson, and Macklemore amongst others, I expected that with the long delayed release of this album and the troubled production, this wasn't exactly going to end up being a hard-hitting rap album. Either way, I just steeled myself for the worst and I gave the album a listen. How did it turn out? Well, I'll admit it. I was wrong because this album is a fair bit better than what I was expecting, and the more I've listened to it, the more I like it and think it's pretty damn good. In fact, I'd probably hold up this record as one of the better examples of how to make an interesting and distinctive debut album, especially from a rapper. Is it perfect? Lord, no. But given what I was expecting, thinking this album was going to be a gigantic waste of time, I was really pleasantly surprised by how much I really liked The New Classic by Iggy Azalea, even enough to recommend it to you all here today. So, okay, what caused this change of heart pretty obviously for me? Well, part of this is Iggy Azalea herself. Namely, that in comparison with many of her recent female rapping peers in the mainstream, this is an album that's focused near entirely on her rapping. No slow love ballads, no moments that paint her as a damsel in distress, just a hard-hitting set of tracks where she talks about hustling, partying, luxury, and actually generally many of the subjects that her male counterparts in hip-hop do with startling frankness. Now, on that note alone, plus the fact that she recruits other singers, male and female alike, to sing her hooks, you get a performer who flips the gender binary in hip-hop with ease, and who is smart enough to make comment on tracks like 100, Change Your Life, New Bitch, and Black Widow. And while the novelty of the presentation, a white female rapper delivering the same sort of luxury rap that many of her counterparts do, it's nifty for a few songs. Where Iggy Azalea actually manages to stand out more is in her delivery as a rapper. Not only can she spit and rhyme with a pretty damn impressive and assertive flow, she also has emotional range and isn't afraid to show vulnerability when she talks about her past. Now that story of her flying to the States on her own and struggling to make a living on her own with no money or family and then being exploited by her label before finally making it as an artist, that's actually reasonably well articulated on the album, mostly on the track Work. And what helps all of this is the first two tracks, Walk the Line and especially Don't Need Y'all, as they establish her independence and her talent. And their placement, or rather a bold placement at the beginning of the album, do a lot to temper some of her more aggressive or obnoxious tendencies. And coupled with the fact that she never really gets hyperbolic or overtly sexual in her assertions of power, well, except for Goddess, but I argue that track makes it work, and I'll come back to this. The album is more concerned with establishing Iggy Azalea's story and her character. And yeah, I'll admit it, it's completely shallow escapism, but it's better articulated escapism from a rapper who can actually string rhymes together reasonably effectively. And with songs like Impossible Is Nothing can be a little inspiring. A clear minority in her industry, rising to command success and power, sticking to her principles and talents, and even having the opportunity on songs like Change Your Life to flip the gender binary and actually be the provider for the guy in question. A rapper with a little bit more narrative ambition would comment a little bit more on this, but you know that's not Iggy's intent with this album. Instead opting for a more simplistic pop approach, and instead lets T.I., the trap step trio Watch the Duck, and dancehall singer Mavado make commentary on it instead. Incidentally, one of the reasons I think Change Your Life is such a great introduction song for Iggy Azalea is that T.I. does deliver a solid verse, one of his few in a long time, but he never overshadows her, which is perfect for establishing her unique presence on her debut album. So okay, where does Iggy Azalea stumble on this record? Well, if I were to pin it down, it'd be most in the instrumentation and the production. Most of it is a fusion of trap, dubstep-inspired pop, and the booming synths you typically find in EDM, with the slick polish of a pop record. And of all of the elements, the EDM pieces feel the least cohesive, especially on songs like New Bitch and Parts of Work, as they seem to be building to these potent dance crescendos that really don't materialize. Honestly, whenever Iggy Azalea ventures away from that sort of production, we get some pretty interesting and captivating results. The crackling minimalism and Don't Need Y'all, the well-textured strumming and electronic interplay on 100, the opulent swell of Change Your Life and Work, the rich theremin-like melody balancing against the xylophone keys on Impossible Is Nothing, and especially the steel drums and explosively heavy synths on Goddess. A song that, yeah, it's a song that goes completely over the top, and yet it still manages to work because Iggy Azalea is a convincing rapper. It doesn't become too much. Unfortunately, that really can't be said for Lady Patra or Fuck Love, the first of which tries to create a reggae vibe with a really grating high synth line, and the latter just going for a noisy electronic MIA sound that just comes across as more than a little overstuffed. Both these are easily the weakest songs on the album, and it doesn't help matters that Iggy Azalea's rhymes just aren't all that special enough to really save them. But in the end, if Future is the example of doing shallow escapism completely wrong, Iggy Azalea is actually getting it right, and that's such a great pleasure to say. The production was solid and frequently interesting. Iggy Azalea is a definitive presence behind the microphone, and while I wish a few more of her song had a bit more of a melodic focus in the hook, she does exactly what she needs to do on a debut album in establishing her brand, personality, and placing her best assets for her as a performer. Better yet, there's enough flavor in her instrumentation and lyrics to suggest that she actually has more to say, and she can be interesting in saying it, which is honestly enough for me to give this album a 7 out of 10 and a definite recommendation. Folks, if you're looking for some fun, female-fronted hip-hop that's better than your average luxury rap, give Iggy Azalea a shot. You might find yourself more than a little surprised. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. If there's anything I might be able to do to improve my presentation, or if there's any other albums coming up this year that you want me to take a look at, I'd be more than happy to give them a listen. So until then, I'm Mark, and I'll see you next time.
But I just won't quit trying to figure out which part of this you just don't get.